Welcome back, folks. The left and right. Gino Funicello from Jackson. Thomas from Lovell, is it?
Lovell, Maine.
Lovell, Maine.
Center of the universe.
So here we are, and we've got, how many days is it? 11 days, 12 days?
13.
13 days till the election. And our genius production crew has decided to give us a little test after this reading of the first question of the day, which none of us, this whole group, have never seen this question before today.
Yes, it's going to test us cold. It's called cold calls.
This'll make you happy because you love this guy. At a campaign rally held for Ted Cruz, it's Cruz, President Trump said, "You know what I am. I'm a nationalist, okay? What does nationalism mean to you?"
Well, I'll take the definition that most people understand it to be, and that is you are devoted to your nation. Mm-hmm. You're not, which would be the opposite of a globalist. Mm-hmm. And so that Trump has said that in his inaugural address, and also all during on the campaign trail. America first. That every policy he looks at, he's going to be looking at what is good for the United States of America, not what is good for Europe, not what is good for the Middle East, not only to the extent that it reflects on to the benefit or detriment of this country, the United States. So your nation is first, which is, I think, that's a conservative. We live in a sovereign nation. That is, when we guard that, we don't like to have American troops under the command of a general from a foreign country, either if it's part of NATO or it's part of the United Nations, whenever there's a military deployment, by either of those bodies. So it's, he's a nationalist. You could call it a patriot, or, would almost be synonymous. A little bit of overlap there.
I would have liked to have him say patriot instead of nationalist.
Why don't you like nationalist?
Because nationalism has a connotation in a lot of ways that goes back to a totalitarian dictatorship in the past by certain groups.
Like Hitler talking about the fatherland or something like
Hitler,
that?
like Mussolini, like even Chiang Kai-shek when he was in the nationalist Taiwanese country, like some of the Middle Eastern leaderships that are nationalist, very much either that or religious nationalists. I think he uses a bad term there. I don't think he really understands what nationalism, the connotation for nationalism can go back to a cause. When he leads into certain things and he knows he's got a strong group of people that are, I hate to say it, they're Ku Klux Klan types. He's had behind him for a long while now. When he sat there and when he was running for office, said, "I don't really know who David Duke is." Well, everybody knows who David Duke is, unless you're a total idiot. Being a nationalist can really, really, in a country like ours, where we have the Statue of Liberty that says, "Bring me your poor, you're tired, you need, you're all," that kind of stuff. Nationalism is what he's doing right now on the Mexican border. The strange thing I find with the man is he wants to be a nationalist, but I don't think he really understands what it really means or what it could lead to. We're a nation of laws. He's trumpeted the fact, no pun intended, he's trumpeted the fact that he doesn't believe certain lawyers or judges or anything are honest. He says that the newspapermen and reporters are all, liars and this and that.
Enemies of the people.
Enemies of the people, which goes back to another nationalist, Joseph Stalin, a communist nationalist. So, it's just, he says these things, and I don't think he has the depth of understanding to realize where he's going with it. That's all, but it's just another thing. And he's meeting with a guy.
I agree with you to the extent that you said that this caravan of illegal aliens well, they want to become illegal aliens here in the United
Right, they're
States by
1,000 miles
coming over
away.
the country.
Right.
There are 14,000 I read this morning coming
Whatever.
now. It keeps mushrooming. Who knows
Oh, sure.
what it'll be by the time they get closer to the border of the United States. But I believe the Democrat Party is an open borders party. Now, they won't say that. Instead, they'll say things like, we should abolish ICE, which is Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Well, that's just saying, I'm for open borders. And they're globalists. They don't believe in the nation state should be the sovereign government of an area. They want to believe that we're citizens of the world, not American citizens. To them, American citizenship is not something to be prized because you can let anybody in the world come in. And this caravan that's coming is real. If it gets here in the next 13 days, or right around the time that we're voting, which I don't know what they're projecting about the arrival time of this thing or not. But that's hugely volatile because Trump was elected basically by saying America first and close the borders, build the wall, et cetera, et cetera. And now this is the big, and it's also the biggest issue in Europe. So Europe and the United States are dealing with the same issues of immigration, and it's huge.
Okay.
And I'm going to finish this point.
Yeah, go ahead.
Europe. We have a European Union. They're looking to make a United States of Europe. Rather than have all these nationally sovereign countries in Europe, they want to make it into a more amorphous mass, for trade and for allowing people. You don't need a passport to go across those borders.
No, I understand that.
And I don't think it's a good thing. There's
Well,
a backlash brewing against
I don't think anyone is suggesting that here. Although, to listen to Mr. Trump stand there the last couple of days and call these thousands of immigrants that are heading, or potential immigrants that are heading toward the border, to call them sponsored by Democrats is utterly untrue because, think about it, if you're running an election in 2 weeks, and his main thing is to protect the border against all interlopers, this is his main goal, and he wants to build a wall.
Yeah, it's his biggest issue.
Why? Think it through. Why would the Democrats want these people crossing the border in the middle of an election if the whole election might stand on the fact that he's right and the Democrats are wrong? Here's what happened. I'm going to tell you just what happened. Back when this last group of people were brought in, they came in, and they were locked in camps, the kids were taken away. There's still about 500 or 600 kids, I guess, that haven't been returned to their families. But anyway, they were legal, they came in, was determined they should all go back, the kids thrown to the winds. Fine. I understand Trump's philosophy. Now here's what happens. Right after that, and you can check this out. I know you don't like this. This is true.
Just make your point.
Our Vice President Pence flew down to Guatemala, El Salvador area.
Yeah.
He spent 3 days, 2 or 3 days there in high-level discussions with those governments. Now, what you're expecting me to believe is that after those discussions, Guatemala and Honduras just said, it appears this is what they said, go ahead, leave.
Go ahead. Said to whom?
To those people, letting them go. They don't have to let them go. They can shoot them down. Well, they can do whatever. In Guatemala, they used to shoot priests and nuns in Guatemala and Honduras. They were trained by us back in the day. That stuff happened. So why would the Democrats provoke that? But I'll tell you who might provoke it might be Trump and Pence.
I don't know if you understand immigration law to this extent. Why are those people coming? They're coming because they've been told that if you get to the border, you don't have to sneak through really to some desert area where there aren't a lot of border guards. You can come right through a checkpoint, and then all you have to do is say, I am here for asylum.
Right.
I am afraid of living back in my
Of course.
country because of whatever, gang violence, political violence,
Yeah,
or
whatever.
I'm homosexual and they're going to discriminate against me. Any of those things.
I don't think they said any of that stuff, but that's okay. They
Any
did.
of those things will qualify them for temporary refugee
Right.
status, and they
Okay.
have to be allowed to come into the
Yeah.
country, right? That is a law that Democrats do not want to change, and that is the draw. These people in Guatemala and El Salvador and Honduras, they will say, they know this. They've been coached. They've been coached
I see.
by people, left-wingers, to
Oh.
come up here and do that because they know that they have to be let
So
in
what-
if they say those things.
According to what
Democrats will you let me finish, please?
Wait, you're going on and on. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Gino,
Go ahead.
I didn't interrupt you.
I know.
Now, Democrats
They've been coached. You know this for
don't
fact.
want, yes I do.
How do you know it for a fact? I'm just
You're
asking.
interrupting again.
No,
Let
but
me
you
finish
say-
my point, please.
You say they're being coached. You're leveling in charge. Now come up with the facts.
Gino, I have a point to make and you're not
Go
letting me
ahead.
make
Okay.
it.
All right, just repeated your point. Go ahead.
This is the law, the immigration law that allows, that means we have to let them in, and then we schedule them for a hearing on their
Yeah.
whether they have a legitimate refugee status
Right,
or not.
right.
There's such a backlog that they won't be called for a hearing until for a year or
Right.
two, so they're released into the country where they disappear. When it comes time for their court date, they don't show
I
up.
see.
They almost never show
Okay.
up. So they add to the 20 million illegal aliens already living in the United States. And now we're going to have these 14,000 more want to come up. Now that's the law because they already know that this is what can happen. Now Trump wants to change that law. He can't do it as the president. Only the Congress can do that. So he's asking Congress to do it. So all the Democrats want to keep it, and many also Republicans also want to keep it because many Republicans are open borders types as well. They like illegal immigration to come in, and that is the situation.
That's
it's a
your
Democrat
opinion.
and,
That's your
and
opinion
liberal
of the
Republican issue.
You make it sound as though there's this clandestine meeting where all these Democrats get in a room and they say, I'm going to go to Guatemala. We're going to let all these people in just to ruin our election chances. Tom, it doesn't make any sense.
Okay, you don't have to believe it, Gino.
I can't believe it.
Don't.
I know there are open borders people on both sides, but the point is you're complaining along with Trump. He has the House. He has the Senate. He has the presidency. He
Not
has
on this issue.
He has a Supreme Court. He has 130 people or so he just put on federal courts. And you mean to tell me, oh, the poor guy has no power to get done what he wants. Tom, it's not believable. You're following that rabbit trail with Breitbart and the rest of these people, and it leads to nowhere. They say it, they can't prove it, they make these statements, people believe it. One day we're going to lose 500,000 jobs, the next day 600,000, the next day 800,000, the next day 1 million jobs. You got a president who never tells the same story twice the same way.
Whenever the issue of Democrats care more about illegal aliens than American citizens.
That's not true.
They absolutely do. We have sanctuary cities. Even in San Francisco, for example, they're registering illegal aliens to vote. Portland, Maine, they're registering non-citizens to vote. Okay? They don't see there's any distinction between an American citizen and an illegal alien. An illegal alien can also come in and get right on welfare. Now, what's not to like? You come in here, you can put your kids right into the public schools at about $15,000 per year per kid. You can go right on to food stamps. You can get free medical care. You can then you can start collecting welfare cash benefits. You get an EBT card in many states. And then you can go and work under the table and supplement that income, and then you can ship money back to El Salvador or to Guatemala or to Mexico, which is billions and billions and billions is wired back to those countries. Okay,
Because
that
they're
is
evil.
the scam that is going on. And then if you ever do get an amnesty, which is what Democrats are constantly pushing, you're going to vote for Democrats.
The last
And that's
giant
what they
amnesty we
want
had-
to do.
The last
That is the
11
scam
million
here.
person amnesty we had was by Ronald Reagan. Saint
You
Ronald
keep saying
of
that,
Reagan.
and it's true.
It was. I'm
Yes.
sorry. When's the last time a Democrat had a giant fire sale saying, come on
30
in?
years ago, that did happen, yes.
It did happen, yeah. When was
Yes.
the last time that happened? And when was the time after that when it happened? We had a Democrat for 8 years, another Democrat. That's 16 out of the next 30 years. We had Democrats, and yet we'd had no open borders. But you guys say all Democrat, and we had the House and we had the Senate. If we wanted an open border, we could easily have gotten it without this stupid $50 billion wall that this pie-headed freak wants to put in and not build schools. You got to have your facts,
When you have-
man.
I got my facts, and
facts.
you have your set of beliefs that you think are true because you listen to Media Matters and you listen to
No,
MSNBC, and that's what you parrot.
And I listen
okay?
to Fox. I listen to Fox. They're saying the
I
same
just
thing.
told you what immigration law is, and Democrats do not want to change that law. If the word got out in Central America that law has changed now, you can't come up here and get right in like you can now. They'll stop coming. It'll take time for the word to permeate, but it will stop coming. Immigration lawyers. We have armies of immigration lawyers, and guess what? They're all Democrats. You don't see
my
Republican
God. You know why?
immigration
'Cause they care
lawyers.
about people.
Of course.
They
so
care
then you
about
ask,
people.
You ask any Democrat operative who talks about abolishing ICE and all this stuff, and ask them, okay, well, you think we should let these 14,000 people in this caravan into the United States out of humanitarian reasons because we're bleeding heart liberals and we want them to have a better life? Okay, then how many people, there are tens of millions of people around the world that want to come to the United States, and who wouldn't, right? How many of them should we let in? All of them? Half of them? Some of them? You never can get an answer from these Democrats. You can't get an answer. No, we should let these in, these in. How many? How many? All of them? Can you answer the question, Gino? How many people should we let in who just want to come here, come in illegally? How many?
We've got 350 million people, right?
Yeah.
Right now they claim we have a 2.7% unemployment rate. Right now, it appears that a lot of people there are jobs waiting, okay? 13,000 people. Now, what you're saying, Donald Trump Jr., is that if they come into the country, that's immediately going to push us into deprivation, isn't it?
What?
When they enter the country, all these people, all these little kids with their parents and whatever, Trump calls them...
Push them into deprivation. I don't understand what you mean.
Well, they're suffering from deprivation now. But you say they're going to create deprivation here if they get here.
Are they suffering from deprivation? I watched them on television. Whenever they do a shot panning, they look very well dressed to me. I don't see any of them that look deprived. As a matter of fact, many of them are fat. And so their clothes look pretty good. They don't look hungry in the least. They're happy. Yeah, we're going. They look fine to me.
Here's the thing, Tom. There are so many businesses in California, in Arizona, in Nevada that need employees.
That's true.
In Texas, they can't get employees. They don't want a wall. The predominant number of people don't want a wall. They want him to shut up about it because they need these people. They've got toilets to clean and tomatoes to grow, and you're stopping them. And you know what's going to happen? Americans don't want those jobs. My niece is a guidance counselor in a high school in Massachusetts. Half of her people that are there are all from Central America. My nephew is teaching them English as a second language.
Yeah.
He's on his way to his PhD. What are you going to do? You want to butcher them now?
Butcher what? What are you talking about?
These people that are here illegally or at the surface, they're superficial, they're not quite legal, they're not quite illegal. What do you want?
What do you mean not quite illegal?
What is your answer for
are
the
they
millions?
legal or are they illegal?
If say they're illegal, what are you going to do?
It's like being pregnant, Gino.
Okay.
You're either legal or you're not legal.
Let's say that half of them are illegal. What are you and Trump going to do to straighten that problem out? What's your solution?
Straighten the problem of the 20 million plus illegal
Right,
aliens.
what is your solution?
Already,
all working, most of them working.
You're going to let me talk a
Yes,
while.
I am.
You asked me a question.
You're right.
Try to
I just
answer
want
the
to.
question.
Yeah, a lot of them are working.
You're going to let me until you don't like what I'm saying.
No,
then
that
you're gonna
isn't true. I
interrupt
like
me again.
everything you say. I don't deny you have every right to say it. I disagree
We'll see.
with it. Go
We'll
ahead.
see.
I'm going to try.
What do we do with those people who are here
Yeah.
Send them back.
Okay.
That's what we do. Okay? Yes.
That's a good answer.
Send them all back.
What would Jesus Christ do? I hate to bring him up. What would Jesus Christ do? Come on.
I don't know what Jesus Christ would do in this situation.
He'd
I
send
really
them back?
don't. But I do know,
You do know
you're
what
bringing up religion.
Well,
You
it's an
didn't-
important-
You said that you were going to let me finish my point.
sorry, go
and
ahead.
you immediately
I know, you're right.
interrupted me.
All right, okay.
As you constantly do.
I'm sorry.
Gino, we send them back.
Okay.
And then we let in people legally. How about that? That's a wonderful concept, isn't
Yeah,
it?
I understand.
There are people who stand in line and apply and want to come into the country legally. Then we have control over what kinds of people come into this country to fill the jobs that you mentioned that go, these people are illiterate. Very few of them speak English. There are about 100 ISIS terrorists among the group. According to the government of Guatemala that you just referred to, they've identified 100 ISIS terrorists. There are, I don't know how many, who have already been here before several times and been deported, and now they're coming back in the caravan, and many of them are criminals. And so this,
And many of them are Mid-Eastern.
You're
But
interrupting again.
I'm just saying, many
You
of them.
keep
All right, go ahead.
just saying, all
All
right?
right,
And then you
Mid-Easterners.
stop me from answering your question.
Okay.
Now, they come in because they feel like coming in. And are they the kinds of people that can fill these jobs? No. Most of them are illiterate. And if they go into the schools that you referred to where your nephew or niece works, then and they need English as a second language, and they need all these other services, and they're not sure what grade level they'll put them in, because what kind of educational background have they had up to now? And if they're 12 years old, are we going to put them in the 7th grade, or because really they belong in the 2nd grade? All that, I said $15,000 per pupil per year. When you need all the services that you mentioned, it goes up to about $25,000 per pupil per year to provide all those services, not including special ed, which is many of them will need as well. So, this is a huge burden on local places, not to mention they swamp hospitals. Hospitals can't afford to take care of all of them.
Well, would you-
And then they have anchor babies. Many of them are pregnant. They want their kid to be born in the United States, and according to the 14th Amendment, they are then automatically citizens of the United States, they think. So that answers your question.
Well, I asked a question in the middle of it, and I'm sorry, I should have waited. I just think we're all of these, an awful lot of Trump's followers, supporters, are Christians, born-again Christians. We have to admit that. I mean, I talk to people who say that Jesus Christ sent him. God sent him. He sent Trump here. He sent Pence here. Pence sent that himself. I'm not making this stuff up. Pence said, God sent me here. So if God sent him here, what would God's son do about these people? I don't know. I asked you the question because I don't understand how a bunch of supposedly religious people who supposedly go to church every week, who supposedly love Jesus Christ and God and all this good stuff, and they want to turn away all these poor people and say, well, they're illiterate, they can't talk, they won't work, they're this, the other, they're malingerers, they're Mid-Easterns, they're all this stuff that comes out, and I don't see it. My niece doesn't see it. My nephew doesn't see it. I was talking to her, I said, well, do these people work? Because I'm interested in what you say about this stuff. Some of them working 60, 80 hours a week, high school kids. You know why they're working so much? How they get the work? Let me finish. They get the work because they work for less. They work for less. They work for less. They don't get minimum wage. And they work in 60, 80 hours a week and going to school in the daytime to hope they can stay in this country. Now, if you say send them back, I guess maybe they can. I don't know what you do when you got a kid here, his family there, his mother there, his father. How do you do it? Kids that have now been here 30 years, what do? You want to send all them back too? You want to send, no, here's the thing with Trump and his gang. Can we send them all back? Think about what they're saying. You're going to take a kid who arrived here 25 years ago with his parents, probably under cover of darkness.
He's not a kid if he arrived 25 years
He's 25
ago.
years. He's been here. You're going to send him back? He's an American now.
Can I talk now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
The answer is you got to answer that question. What do you do?
What?
You gotta
didn't
answer the
ask the
question.
What are we going to do, send them back? I already said that.
I said 25-year-old people that have been here since they were 2 years old?
If they're here illegally, send them back.
Okay.
That's what I think. We have a
Okay.
law, apply the law. That's what we should do. Now, you said the high school kids
Right.
working 60 to 80 hours
Right.
a week.
Right.
That's impossible.
I'm just saying.
That's
what those-
impossible, Gino. There aren't enough hours in the day.
I'm sure there
that's
are.
that's baloney.
Did you ever work
If you-
60 hours a week?
Yes, I did. I work 60 hours a week, including my teaching job.
Yeah.
So if you go to school, that's about 30 to 35 hours a week just to go to school, not to mention getting to and from, all right? Then you say they work 60 to 80 hours a week. That's like 80 hours is 2 more full-time jobs, and they're full-time students. When do they sleep, Gino?
They
don't
in
sleep.
Cars. They sleep in cars. They really
When? I didn't say where. I said when.
1 to 3 in the morning. They're kids.
Gino, that's baloney.
Well,
What you said is baloney.
okay. So what you're saying is none of them want to work. None will work. I mean,
No, I
must
didn't
be
say
going
that.
around-
I already laid it out for you. They're entitled to enormous welfare benefits, not to mention educational benefits.
mean to tell me
okay? They're entitled to all those things which they get. Now, they can also work under the table, like you said, sub-minimum wage,
Yeah, I know.
and depress the wages of other Americans who are trying to work in those fields, like gardening and like restaurants and, and landscaping and carpentry and those things. Those are the places that these sub-minimum wage people with low skills or no skills and maybe not even any English language skills, those are the jobs that are open to them, and they take them. And I've talked to local contractors who, like people from Massachusetts that come up and they're house painters or they're carpenters or they have a landscape business back in Massachusetts, and they say, I bid on a job and I pay all my people over the table and so forth with workman's comp and so and they're on the books. I can't compete with a landscape company that hires all illegal aliens who are going to underbid me on every job. He said, and that's what's happening. That's happening around the country. And ordinary Americans who work with their hands and work in the trade, small businessmen, they know this. Even if your left-wing Democrat people don't know it, these people know it, and they become Trump supporters. When he says, I am going to close that border, and that is why Trump won. In spite of what all the polls said in 2016, they were shocked that Trump won. And it was these non-college educated white men, the ones I just described to you, right, who are struggling, and they see what's happening. Even if the NBC, CBS, and NBC do not televise it and do not portray it, ordinary Americans know it's happening. So they don't listen to the mainstream media with its left-wing bias. They trust their own eyes and ears and what they see on the ground. And this midterm election may surprise the heck out of those people again.
I'm with that. The management of this theater group show has asked us to analyze the vote that's coming up within 2 weeks to replace certain senators and representatives. All the representatives are actually going to be changed. But you want to put
is it in this question here?
I don't think so.
So
it's right here.
How do you wish to address the situation here?
Well, first we should take what they say is there's a possibility. I'm sorry. There's a possibility. Oh, yeah, get that one. There's a possibility that the question is, can the Democrats take back the House and the Senate?
Okay, I can address that.
That's the question.
Do you want to go first, or should I?
No, you go ahead. You've got the names there.
Well, I watch.
Why don't we do the ones that we think are debatable?
All right, pick a state.
All right, go ahead. Maine.
All right. Uh-oh.
That's a blue state.
I can't get here without a password.
VB3.
VB?
Yeah, Valley Vision.
Oh, VV3 VV. Okay,
Thank you.
that opened
Voice
it right
from
up.
the
So
clouds.
what state did you say?
Instead of Maine, which probably isn't a good.
Maine. All right, well, the only contest that anyways, I mean, if Angus King gets defeated, that would be a shock. I mean,
Yeah, I
it
don't
doesn't.
think it
He's
is.
got several opponents, some of them independent, some of them Republican. Even
Yeah.
from he got Democrat and Republican and independent opponents, and they'll split the vote, and he'll probably walk in. The same thing with Shelley Pingree in the first district. She's a congresswoman. All right?
She Democrat?
Yeah, and she has an opponent, but it would be a shock if he were to win. The contested district is mine, the second district, and Bruce Poliquin is the only Republican member of Congress in all of New England.
Yeah.
And so, and it's coincidentally, it's the most money is being spent in the second district according
Where is
to
the
two
second-
reports I heard.
where's the second
Well, Bridgeton is the
Okay.
first district.
Uh-huh.
Lovell is in Freiburg, our second district. So we go from western Maine all the way to Canada
Wow.
and back down the coast.
Wow.
It's the biggest land area,
Oh, it has to be in
congressional
America.
district
Yeah.
east of the Mississippi.
Yeah.
So there's about
Who's
600,000
running against
people.
him?
It's a guy named Jared Golden.
They have a chance?
And, huh?
Does he have a chance?
Yes, it's a very closely contested election, and there's a lot of money being poured in
Wow.
for Jared Golden from around the country to knock off Poliquin, and that's why we have so much. That's why it's, the ads. You don't watch
I
TV.
see them. I don't look at them. They
Well,
don't even discuss.
Golden was a state representative in Maine in the
Yeah.
Maine legislature, and he is basically a liberal Democrat. And he,
None of the ads show that anymore. They don't show if they're Democrats or Republicans. I can tell most of the Republican ads because they smear.
Well, Poliquin's the
I
incumbent
kinda-
Republican, and I've met him. He's not that. He's kind of a.
Well, we better proceed
He's not
through.
what you'd call a dynamic politician or a speaker or anything, and he votes with Trump much of the time, but not all of the time, and he's not as conservative as I would like, but he's a Republican. He's better than the Democrat.
Yeah.
So I voted for him, and I'll
Well, these are
continue to vote for
senatorial.
him.
All the ones we have, basically, we know that in New Hampshire there are a couple of reps.
wanna
all
go to
the
New
reps.
Hampshire? Okay.
No, all the reps are up for grabs. There's no senatorial race in New Hampshire. The senatorial race in Vermont is pretty much that's a given.
So do you think that the Democrats are going to keep the two seats in
New Hampshire? Oh yeah.
Okay, so neither
don't
there's
think
a black guy running. He was here in.
I think that's
in
for
a-
governor, isn't it? I think it's for governor.
No, it's for
I don't know what he's
Congress,
running for.
yeah.
I really don't follow it that much. I just
A black
concede-
Republican, and
No,
I
he's
forget
running
his
for the
name.
House. He's running for the House. He's running for,
Yeah.
I think, Carol Shea Porter's.
Yeah,
But
so he
he's
hasn't got a shot.
He got no chance.
Okay.
I think that the governor's going to get knocked off. I think he had a recent thing where he supported the elimination of 900 jobs in the.
New Hampshire governor's up for re-election?
Yeah, he's up
Okay.
for, I have a feeling he's going to get blown out because
Mm-hmm.
Sununu, he's John Sununu's son.
Yeah,
And,
Chris Sununu, right?
Yeah, Chris Sununu. He come out against 900 woodworkers or something, doing away with,
biomass,
stuff. And I think he's
power
gonna get-
plants.
Even his own House and Senate voted against it. They overrode him. Vermont, I think we got to concede Vermont. I mean, you got
Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, it's over.
Yeah.
New York State's always blue. Pennsylvania is a little bit of a. I think Pennsylvania, for the most part, I don't know who's running for Senate in
Pennsylvania, we have Bob Casey is the incumbent. He's the Democrat.
He's a cinch.
And there's somebody named Lou Barletta who is a congressman. He's the Republican. And this is shown as light blue, meaning it's a possibility that could flip.
I think Casey's a cinch. They like him. His father was governor. They've been there forever. There's a good chance they'll remain.
His interesting fact about those two guys is they both claim to be pro-life. Now, but yet when it comes down to actually voting on abortion issues, neither one of them has a pro-life voting record, and yet they say they are.
Yeah.
The same with the guy from Indiana, who is a Democrat senator. He claims to be pro-life, but he never votes that way.
What about, we could talk about Texas a little bit, because that's where
All
Cruz,
right, let's go there.
Mr. Cruz, who
We got Ted Cruz and Beto O'Rourke.
Beto O'Rourke, what a candidate.
So we know who Ted Cruz is. He ran for president.
Yeah.
And then
And
Beto
his father
O'Rourke.
actually, according to Trump, his father actually tried to assassinate John F. Kennedy. He was part of the assassination team. According to Trump. I'm just saying what Trump said.
Beto O'Rourke is a representative of Texas,
Yep.
member of the House, and he's a Democrat, and he's getting a lot of money. He's raised $38 million,
yeah.
and people said, well, it doesn't look like you're doing very good against Cruz. You know, you're down about 6 or 8 points in the polls. And so can you send some of that money over to other
he said
Democrat
no.
senators? And he
said
said,
no.
nope.
Yep.
So
He
we'll
wants
see.
to win.
He's being compared to Robert Kennedy because of the way he combs his hair or
No,
something.
he reminds you a lot about him.
and
He's got
the way
some
he
good.
speaks. I saw something interesting on Fox, and they went around asking Democrats who were at a rally for Beto O'Rourke, tell me what you like about Beto O'Rourke. Oh, well, he speaks well, and he's like a Kennedy, and da-da-da. But tell me, what are any of his positions on the issues that you like?
He's very
And
liberal.
None of them could say where his positions on the
Yeah.
issues were.
Well, they're probably all
So it
liberals.
seems to be a personality thing.
He's a liberal. I mean, he's in favor of.
Yeah, I know that. But
all the border stuff.
But his supporters don't seem to know that.
The problem is, and I think the reason, I just got a feeling that Cruz is going to lose. I didn't mean to rhyme that. I think Cruz is going to lose in a way because he's so hated. I mean, the man is despised by Congress, by his own senators. They don't like him. No one talks to him. And he showed here, and I think it's important, when Trump went down there to speak for him, they were in an auditorium with 9,000 seats. And I made the assumption, I said, what are you doing that for? You could have gone to, the Astrodome or some one of these places with 80,000 seats. I don't think he's got as much support. Although
Who
it's
doesn't? Cruz or Trump?
Cruz doesn't. And he doesn't because of his kissy ass with Trump now, because Trump basically, did you ever see the picture of Cruz's wife superimposed next to Trump's wife? It was a homely picture of her, and he made fun of her looks.
No, I don't think I ever
And at
saw
the
that.
time, Cruz wanted to, give him a decking. And then, when Trump came out and said, well, your father, I understand, he was reading that Inquirer, that, your father was involved in the JFK assassination. He said those two things, and at the time, Cruz was outraged. She was, blah, 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 blah. But now, he's giving him the huggy. So it's like,
He used to be Lion Ted, but now he's
Oh,
no,
he's
he,
good
he
old
came
Ted.
up with a new nickname for him. I forget what
good
it
old
is.
Ted.
He
So
kind of
anyway,
chuckles about that.
I get a feeling that Beto, it's not
He's
a
going to
real-
win, huh?
It'll be tough. It doesn't seem possible. I think getting to North Dakota, how many are running in North Dakota? Is it just two senators or
Well,
one
it's
senator?
Heidi Heidkamp,
Heidi Heidkamp is the senator.
and she's running against a congressman, a Republican congressman named Kevin Kramer. And it doesn't say on it here, but she's sliding in the polls big time. She
Well,
came
that's
out with some kind of campaign commercial that was about this Me Too thing, and she named several women who had spoken to her about having been sexually assaulted,
Yeah.
and asked to remain anonymous, but she used their names in an ad,
Ugh.
and then
Not good.
and then her polls plummeted because of I don't know if just because of that, but the article I read indicated that was what caused.
Well, North Dakota is a strange state because they don't have many people. I don't even
Right.
think they should have two senators. And it's actually ludicrous that they could ever control a national election with 80 people and 9,000 cows, but they can. And I just think that whole thing should be changed. But anyway, they got Heidkamp fell quite a bit because of the
You want to move around some more?
because she became
How about Montana? You got
Montana.
John
the-
Tester, the Democrat, as an incumbent, and a guy named Matt Rosendale, who is state auditor, is the Republican challenger.
I'd say this guy, what's his name, the current senator, Tester. He was former governor, unusual, a Democrat, and kind of a conservative state. One thing about Montana, the people can see both sides of the street. I think Tester will squeak out a win. I just think he will. He's a good campaigner, and they seem to like him. So I think that he'll probably win. What about Nevada? Who's in Nevada?
Nevada is leaning red, and the incumbent is the Republican Dean Heller, and his challenger is a Democrat Representative Jackie Rosen.
Oh, that's that woman, Jackie Rosen's running again. Heller has...
Don't know anything
she's
about
an
her.
awful person who was like an anti-Trump, and now he's a pro-Trumper. All over the ballpark. The big thing there is the union vote. If she gets the union vote, if the casino employees and stuff like that go her way, she'll win. If they stay home, she'll lose. And that's just about it. But Jackie Rosen's a good candidate, but
I don't know anything about
Heller
her.
he's awful. He's just so disingenuous. What about Arizona? That's another...
Arizona,
Toss-up.
you got two congresswomen going after
The Senate?
Jeff Flake's Senate seat.
Yeah. What about the McCain seat?
The governor appointed someone to fill McCain's seat.
But how long
And it
was
was, I
he-
think his name was John Kyle.
So he's
who
been-
was
oh,
a
yeah,
Republican.
former-
He's a
former Senator
former
Kyle, yeah.
senator. So I guess that seat won't be up for
6
election,
months?
and maybe he's going to fill out McCain's term. I don't
Oh, yeah,
know
yeah.
how they do
McCain had
it.
2 years to go, I think.
All right.
And who are the two women running there?
One, the Republican's name is Martha McSally, and the Democrat's name is Kirsten Sinema with an S.
Kirsten, they both, I mean, Kirsten Sinema is a pretty good candidate. I think the other lady has been throwing a lot of mud at her. I don't, when they dig back into things like, in 1992 you voted for whoever. I mean, I don't know. But I think it's going to be it's very, very close.
I've seen some reports on that. Martha McSally is a conservative Republican. She was the first female fighter pilot to either in the Navy
I
or in
believe
the
so,
Air
yeah.
Force. I forget
Yeah.
which. And she's a pretty conservative Republican. Kirsten Sinema is a liberal Democrat, and what I've seen lately is that she has gone outside the state and given speeches in the last few years in
yeah.
which she said, I don't like Arizonans, or Arizonans are dumb, or something
not a
like
smart
that.
move.
And also she said some things like that were very left-wing. Oh, I know, how she thinks that we should negotiate with the Taliban, or something else that was
Yeah.
pretty bizarre about the Taliban, like she supported the Taliban. I forget what exactly she said, but there were those two things and a few others
I heard it
that
was.
she said that indicated that she was pretty far lefty, and now McSally is using that stuff against her in ads. And it has videotape
They have
of her
to be
saying
careful.
these
They have
things.
to be careful with the Trump effect, because Trump went in there, he went into Nevada, he went into Arizona. The question is going to be, he went into Montana. He's going to all these pretty close states
Yeah.
because he thinks he can.
Makes
Now,
sense, right?
if he has an impact, if they love him and they think he's wonderful, the opponent will win. The Republican
So when
will
you were
win.
bringing up that he should have rented the Astrodome instead of a 9,000 seat
Yeah, why
venue,
9,000 seats? It looked like there was no
what
one
were
there.
you trying to? What's your point?
Well, just that I think he's concerned that in Texas it might not have worked for him. I don't know.
What might not have worked?
If he might have had a problem if they had a big arena. He
Filling
might
it?
have got a lot of people in there that might not have agreed with him. You notice what's happened? You never hear anybody jeer at a Trump rally. Have you noticed that?
Yes, you do.
I
Of
saw
course
one
you do.
guy. He was sitting there watching. He got escorted out. He didn't say a word, and he was talked to by the Secret Service because he was sitting behind. What was that all about?
They've been. I don't know anything that's happened since he was elected, but
No,
I
it
remember
hasn't. It hasn't
during
happened
his
since-
rallies.
Yeah, he was beaten up.
Pre-election,
Right.
there were lots of hecklers.
He was talking about beating them up and all that. I remember that. I'm just saying
There were
during
people
since he-
outside that were beating up people Trump supporters that were coming out.
Anyway, you'd be happy to know this. George Soros, they found a bomb in his mailbox, huh? Nice.
Well, I'm not necessarily happy to hear about a bomb in
Nice.
his mailbox, but I'm glad that he's facing some opposition because many
Is that
of
good
the
opposition?
many of the people that that are hecklers, these people that are heckling and also even assaulting Republican candidates around the country are paid by George Soros.
I got to stop you on that because I'll tell you what. Where and how and who?
George Soros has many fronts,
Okay.
and the biggest one is called the Open Society Institute. Media Matters, for example, which is which I check every so often, and I hear you parrot their stuff.
I don't even go on it anymore. I
Well,
never read it.
He funds them, and they're the biggest liberal media lobbying group in the country.
Where do you see
Media Matters.
Republicans getting beaten up? That's what I'd like to know. Where has it happened?
Well, in Minnesota, there were a couple of assaults last week. There were Democrats physically assaulted 2 Republican politicians. One of them, I think, was the president of the
Physically
Republican
assaulted
Party.
him?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, did you see the thing about Nancy Pelosi the other day?
What?
Did you see that gang down
I don't know
in
what you mean.
Florida? You didn't see it?
No, I didn't. What happened?
She was walking down a hallway to go into a meeting at some building. I don't know where it was.
In
And
Florida.
there was a group, this boys group, they call them the Nationalist Boys Club or some damn thing. I don't know. And they're out there screaming her, all these filthy things at her as she's walking down the hallway. You didn't see that?
No.
It's amazing. I mean, I see it on both sides. I don't see the Democrats beating up.
You may find it hard to believe, but there are some things that go on in the world that I don't hear about or that I don't know about. I know, it seems like I know everything.
I
but
don't see them getting
not
beaten
true.
up. I wish I could see it because I've seen some horrible stuff the other way, but I haven't seen it. But let's go on. Tennessee. Marcia Blackburn, one of my most disliked senators.
Oh, I like her.
Ugh, God, she's gruesome.
Oh, I think she's a pistol.
Yeah, she's a pistol. Right?
So she is running against somebody named Phil Bredesen, a former governor of
governor,
Tennessee
yeah.
and a Democrat. And he, I don't know a lot about him except this one anecdote that he, let's see, somebody in his staff, he said that I would have voted for Kavanaugh to confirm him. And
It's his opinion.
if I were in the Senate.
Yeah.
And then somebody on his staff said, no, he told me that he would have voted against Kavanaugh. So that, I think, is something
cares
Marcia
who he would
Blackburn is now using, this quote, against him.
Oh,
So he,
she's so gruesome.
you know, most Southern Democrats
me.
tend not to be quite as far left as other Democrats, say, from
They can't be.
California and New
They
York.
can't be.
But, yeah,
You can't have them.
that's all I know about that race.
I think
Which one are you interested in now?
thinking about, let's see, we got Pennsylvania and Ohio. I think those places are pretty safe.
Pennsylvania.
No,
That
West
has a light blue, and it says, oh yeah, that's Casey and Barletta. We already talked about that.
I think they're talking more about leaning, I'm not sure, but they're also leaning on the reps. We should actually
Oh,
now,
I think I heard about that. Yeah, I
I
remember
don't know
this
how
guy
much time we got
Barletta.
left. I don't know, Florida? Florida's Nelson.
Florida,
and,
you got
Nelson and
Bill Nelson is the incumbent Democrat senator,
Hmm.
and he's being challenged by Republican Rick Scott, who is the incumbent governor, but not running for re-election.
Yes. Well, he's running for Senate.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is the thing that's really fouled up Scott is the red tide. Because they've all been, a lot of the Republicans in a lot of the states are all, there's no global warming, no climate change, no. And all of a sudden they see their shoreline getting ruined because of course, there's no EPA. What do you need EPA for? They're dropping all this crap into the water and turning it all red and smelly, and all this stuff leaching in. You don't need the EPA. So what's happening now is states like that where climate change might not have been a big problem, it's all coming back on the former governor, so who knows. There are some very interesting races because of stuff that's going on, like North
Like what?
Dakota. I mean, just
North Dakota.
just
I
the,
already-
no,
I
that
already
we
talked
already
about
did
that.
not go. West Virginia is interesting because
West Virginia.
the Democrat there running for Senate.
His name is, he's the incumbent, and his name is Joe Manchin.
Yeah, Joe Manchin.
And he's running against Patrick Morrissey, who was Attorney General of the state.
Yeah,
He's the Republican.
Manchin's pretty moderate, kind of like a tweener. He likes to sit on the edge and not upset the West Virginians. Says, God forgive me, if you ever got rid of coal, what would you have? You might have people working in real jobs, but He's probably going to win again. I don't know. I don't see.
I don't want to. I want to comment on him.
Sure.
I've heard what you said, that he's a moderate Democrat. I don't think there's any such thing anymore.
Well,
And maybe his
think so.
instincts take him in that direction. And he says things like being pro-life and pro-gun, but he's the only Democrat to vote to confirm Brett Kavanaugh to the U.S. Supreme Court, but he did it
vote
only
was
after
over.
Susan
Exactly,
Collins said
exactly.
that she was going to vote, and it was a done deal. And then Schumer probably told him, if you want to now, you can.
No, they
you
all
can
do
vote.
that. That's
And
been
so
done.
what Manchin does not have his own mind and hasn't got the courage of his convictions. He's a Democrat. He does what Chuck Schumer tells him to do, and
Now, you
I
wanna
don't. To me, I'd like better if he were, if he voted even worse, more lefty than he does, but he believed what he said. But
Well,
Manchin, I just think I don't trust him.
You know what makes me laugh about some of the stuff you say? You're very quick to jump on a Democrat saying, "Oh, he's just following Schumer." Who's the Republican head of the Senate now? What's his name?
Mitch McConnell.
McConnell. I mean, now you're going to sit here and tell me that those guys don't follow him in lockstep?
Susan Collins certainly doesn't.
Nah, but she's a
What
hypocrite.
the Murkowski in
Well,
Alaska
that was a
certainly
woman's
doesn't.
issue because of rape. I mean, what do you expect them to do? Come out for the rapist?
Do any Democrats break ranks when it
Yes.
counts? When?
Yes.
Name one. Who has ever done it?
Oh, they do it all the time. These
Name
guys,
one then, if they do
don't
it all the
follow
time.
Schumer that well. They didn't really
Can
know.
you name a single Democrat senator
I know
who has
Joe
broken
Manchin.
ranks?
Joe Manchin has
Only
broken
after
ranks.
it was a done deal, and that's as we just discussed. I can't think of any.
Well, they haven't had the Senate for quite a while, so I don't know if you're talking about
Did
breaking
any
ranks.
of them break and vote for Trump, or any Trump bill, or anything that what you say that
most
the
of Trump-
Democrats never break ranks?
Actually, Trump doesn't have a bill. The House produces the bill, right? And the president has to go and
Money
no-go.
bills have to originate
Yeah.
in the House, but not
Now,
all
wouldn't
bills.
it be nice if they still did? I think that
Democrats don't break ranks.
what you
Gino.
say,
Republicans do.
Look at these people that go back to George W. Bush in 2000 when he won the election.
Okay, you're going back 18 years. Can you find a Democrat that broke ranks 18 years ago?
No.
No, you
Yeah.
can't, because they don't.
I don't think about it like that because I do believe that in the system that we've had, they do follow. You're making it sound like, well, they only follow Schumer. But yeah, you McConnell, they follow
Rand
him.
Paul breaks ranks
Yeah,
constantly.
he-
John McCain broke ranks
Yeah, but
constantly.
when it's important, when it's an important
it's
decision,
important,
where
yeah.
do they go?
Well,
Where
when
did
Trump
they
was
go?
trying to repeal Obamacare and he needed all the votes in the Senate, McCain broke ranks.
Yeah.
And the
Why?
bill went down.
Why did he break ranks? Can
Because
you imagine why?
you asking me why,
Yeah.
and I
think
know what
it's-
he said, but my opinion is that he did it because he hates Trump's guts, and he did it out of spite, so
Didn't
Trump
Susan
wouldn't get that
Collins-
victory.
Did Susan Collins vote the same way?
I don't remember
Murkowski?
where
Yeah,
she
it was-
voted on
There were three
that.
votes. He was the final vote that pushed it over, but it was 49 or what? 49.
Everyone
49.
had declared where
Right.
they were going to be. I don't
he
remember
was
where
the
Trump
last
and
vote. He
Murkowski
came
were.
in and-
Rand Paul was often breaks ranks, and he almost did on that issue, but then he stuck with it. So
Well-
now Rand Paul, I respect him. He votes. He's a libertarian, and he goes by those principles, even if he has to buck McConnell and Trump. And I like. I mean, I don't agree with him on several things, but I respect him
His
for
neighbor
that.
doesn't agree
He
with
has
him
his
either.
own mind, and he sticks to it.
The neighbor beat him up. That must have
But
been
you can't
something.
name any Democrat senators like the
I
ones
think
I
they
just
all do
mentioned,
that.
5
They-
or 6
no, what I'm saying is they
Republicans
all-
who break ranks
Oh,
with
I
their
don't
party.
know if he billed it, voted on, and not voted for something.
Okay, then don't say it, okay? Because you don't have
mean,
any moderate Democrats in
course
that
there are
party.
some.
You simply don't have any.
Of course there is.
They may
some.
talk that
You know,
way.
we come out of a
They
situation.
talk that way,
yeah.
but they don't vote
We
that
come
way.
out of a situation in 2006, okay, when if the Republicans had taken the White House, they would have been.
2006. There was no Republican election.
2008, I'm sorry, 2008. In 2008, when Obama got elected.
Obama versus McCain.
Well, yeah, and what's her name? Nancy Pelosi was Speaker.
Yeah.
Okay?
Wait a minute. She became Speaker then.
She became Speaker in
Right.
2008.
Yeah.
Now, what happened was, there was a lot of talk on the Democratic side. A lot of Democratic senators and legislators wanted to go back
5 minutes.
and target Mr. Bush for what happened in Iraq and in Afghanistan. They were going to target him.
Torture and stuff like that.
They wanted to bring it into the open.
Yeah, yeah.
Obama gets elected. What does he say?
I don't remember.
We're not going back. Nancy Pelosi, what did she say? We're not going back. It's off the table. Now, wait a minute. Can you imagine that? Republicans win the House and Senate. They win the presidency. And you got a guy, say Clinton, who ran a couple of wars like that and did
Yeah,
the
I can
things
give
he
you an
did.
example.
They never would. They would have
I have
gone
a very
after
good
him.
example, and that would be when during the campaign, when it was Trump versus Hillary, he said, "You ought to be in jail if I was the president," and he'd say, "Lock her up," and so forth. And then he gets elected, and he said, "We're not going back.
Lock her
We're
up."
going to leave her off. We're not going to continue
What
the
are you talking? They
investigation."
have that cheer at every one of his things.
That's what
Come
you
on.
asked me, Gino, and I just told you. All right,
Come
you don't like
on.
it. I answered your question.
Please. He was a
We got 5 minutes, and we got one more
He was a
question.
candidate.
You got to read. Okay, read it.
Currently, the Red Sox hold a 1-0 lead over the Dodgers in the World Series. Which team do you think will win the championship, and by how many games?
You know what? I used to be a rabid Red Sox fan, which means that heart is going to get broken year after year after year after year, which it was from 67, 75, and all the rest of them, right?
86. Don't forget
Yeah,
86.
and so, yeah, I watched it, and now they've won. They're up for their third one, right?
Yeah.
And I've lost interest. So I don't really know the team. I haven't been paying attention, so I'm not qualified
I
to
like
answer
to wear
the question.
baseball hats once in a while, right? And usually around the 15th to 30th of September, if they're in the playoffs, I'll wear my Red Sox cap. I do the same thing with the Celtics. I get a Celtics jacket. If they're in the playoffs sometime in March or April, May, whenever it is.
I don't think I could name you a single player on the Red Sox team today.
No, I lost it. It's 5-hour games. I just haven't got the stamina. When I was a lad working 50 hours a week, I used to be able to do
Oh,
it.
I used to be a rabid Red Sox fan.
So I think we got about 2 minutes
got a
to
few
go.
more, yeah. And we
No
covered
more
a lot of
slanderous
issues here.
comments? Nothing? I had some beautiful stuff, too.
There's one thing I want to. Oh yeah, I want to bring up something, and it's Trump. I didn't expect this from him. It hasn't come from his mouth, but it's come from somewhere in his administration. His Health and Human Services Department is
Gone.
You know how President Obama, when he was a lame duck, he said, "Okay, we're going to transgenders can use any bathroom they
God,
want
we
to."
have to go
He didn't have the
there.
authority to say this, but he did.
I
And now
know.
Trump is coming out and is saying there is no such thing as a transgender.
Right. They have to
That
be-
if you were
they're
born with a
birthed,
penis, then you're a male. And if you're born with a
With a
vagina,
whatever,
then you're a
yeah.
female. And if you're born as a hermaphrodite, where it's ambiguous what kind of genitalia you
Yeah,
have,
yeah,
then we take a blood sample. And if you have
Yeah.
these chromosomes, male chromosomes, you're a male. And that's what he
How
said.
sick
And
is
it's
that?
done. It's sick.
How sick is it for
To
this
me,
man?
Gino, this is common sense.
You ever s-
And that your party says that you're assigned your sex at
Christians.
birth. Okay? That's,
My
to
party
me,
are the true
that's the biggest
Christians.
example of how crazy, one minute,
My
of how
pa-
crazy your party is.
My
and Trump
party
has come
actually
out.
practices its religious beliefs. It believes that though people are born differently, act differently, look differently, they're still human beings in the eyes of
I'm
Jesus
not denying they're
Christ.
human beings.
No, you
But
don't
if a-
believe it.
if
You
a
don't
ma-
believe
If
it.
a man with a penis says I'm a woman, then he can say it all he wants, but he's not going to persuade me that he's a woman.
Oh,
I know he's not a woman. He's just a very confused man. Okay, so I'm not going to change my whole worldview based on his confusion.
And you firmly believe that Donald Trump give one rat's tail about what sex somebody is?
I already said it didn't come from him. It
He
came from
grabbed-
somewhere in
and he'll
his
put it through.
HHS department.
Well,
so
you know, we got to leave this happy show this week, and I probably won't be back for at least a month.
it'll be a month, yeah.
And yeah, my stomach will be churning over just waiting. But thank you
We'll
folks
know
for
about
coming
the
in.
election. I think the
We will
Republicans are
know
going to hold the
everything.
Senate, and they may even hold the House.
They can hold whatever they
I think
want.
the blue wave is not going to reach shore.
I see. Okay. I think we're going to win at least 35 or 40 seats, but that's okay.
Hey, it's been Grant.
Yeah, it's been nice again. Yeah.
It's been Grant.
This is CCTV, Conway Community